Hello dreamers! If you're an avid gamer like I used to be, you've probably played a great variety of games that have some kind of statistical system which does its best to imitate real characteristics into applicable game mechanics. Strength, dexterity, charisma, intelligence, etc. But luck really stands out as something unique. All of the other attributes are reflections of things that can be trained and improved upon, not only in game but in real life. Strength by lifting weights, intelligence by studying, pretty much everything else simply by practicing as much as you can. But luck is something truly unquantifiable. Even if you think of it as a literal force that affects the physical world, no one can prove it any more than they can prove the existence of God. But when you look at the characteristics of luck itself, in that it is something that influences all aspects of life, but governs none of them, there is in fact something in real life that meets that criteria, although it isn't an attribute, but rather a subject. And that subject is philosophy. Wait, please, don't click off. This is not clickbait. Just hear me out, okay? I'm not going to go into the minutiae of Plato's philosophy of forms or Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative, though they are applicable. The point is that whereas every other subject there is, be it maths, science, technology, geography, politics, history, or furry culture, they all deal in what is. But philosophy is the subject that deals with what ought to be, and it applies to every other subject in some form. This is why philosophy can be extremely helpful even if you're designing a game or writing a work of fiction. Every how-to video you've ever watched is a part of the philosophy of the presenter and how they would approach that particular subject. But it's not just how things are done. There are in fact many different ways to do the same things in the majority of different subjects. But it's the why you should do it this way where the presenter's philosophy comes in. Now please forgive me when I go one step deeper to give you an example of how philosophy can expand your craft no matter what it is. Let's look at tips for writing a book. If you want to sell your book, there's a couple of common pieces of advice to get it to fly off the shelves. And that is to have a great cover art, and secondly, have an amazing first line or paragraph. That's the how, but why? Well, for the cover art, it's because, yes, everyone judges a book by its cover. You need something professionally done to attract someone to pick it up off the shelf. As for the first line or paragraph, well, now that your cover art has put the book in someone's hand, they need something to grab them and make them want to read on. This is the philosophy behind the advice. But let's go a touch deeper. Now, I said I wasn't going to go into the minutiae of Plato's philosophy of forms, but I will dabble a little bit here. To paraphrase Plato, he said that attributes can be identified by their characteristics no matter what form it takes. For example, to identify justice in a person, you need to look at how justice would appear in a city and compare the two. Well, how about we do that with this principle? If we're designing a board game, how would the cover art and first line advice apply? Well, obviously, we're talking about the box art. The box art is going to be extremely important in getting your game in someone's hands. What about the first line or paragraph? Well, that would be the first point of focus. This directs you to think about the thing in your game that your players will be paying the most attention to, because if your game is at a gaming club or convention, or wherever someone might have a quick glance or playtest to see if they're interested, whatever it is they look to first will determine whether or not they'll be interested in buying it. I'm going to use an example from my own game because the system we live in forces me to whore myself out to capitalism. But in my game, each player starts the game with a champion card in play, and you win when the enemy champion is defeated. So I have unique game mechanics on those cards for people to read for a quick and easy understanding as to how the game functions and what kind of skill expression they can expect. One more time, how would this philosophical principle apply to music? Well, back when CDs were a thing, the art on the case would be important. Now, of course, artwork isn't as common on some online outlets, but having art that conveys the song's genre wherever you can is important. Having a YouTube thumbnail would be a great example. As for the first line or first point of focus, well, with music you're obviously talking about the hook. In this case, this isn't the first line of a song, but rather a hook is a musical idea, often a short riff, passage or phrase that is used in popular music to make the song appealing and to catch the ear of the listener. Songs don't take anywhere near as long to consume as books or games, so the focus needs to be something that people can come back for after their first experience. Now, I hope this has been a great example of what I'm getting at, and is also why I will be indulging in philosophical contemplation in some of my future videos. If you like this video, I'd encourage you to join my newsletter. The link is in the description. It has updates about my books and games, and I'm going to be giving away a free copy of the first edition of my game every month for the foreseeable future to random subscribers on my newsletter. So make sure you're signed up. And lastly, this is Jim. Jim's a lycanthrope who works as a scribe on a submarine. That's right, he's a lycan subscribe. Jim sometimes ponders whether or not he's just a brain in a jar, or living in some kind of simulation, or some kind of divine test. But he assuages that existential dread with card games and conversations with his mates. Anyway, thanks for listening, and like and subscribe. Have a good day.